Why materialism cannot genuinely explain experience. Experience is that which is exhaustively self-differentiated to, through, and for a determination of itself. And in conceiving any actual or possible piece of reality, one is bound by necessity to conceive of an experience or a determination thereof. No actuality is conceivable otherwise. For all sensible and thinkable actualities are but unities of meaning, saturated and sustained in and through a continuous atmosphere of experience. An experience within which said unities of meaning have their respective places as beings of an intentional constitution, moments of actual or possible appreciation and contemplation for a unique determination of that experience itself, the subject. Experience is a many felt in one, a multiplicity in unity, a world of interpenetrating microcosms of meaning and ideal content, enveloped within a richer, all-embracing macrocosm, a boundless, internally differentiated nebula of feeling, a continuous sphere wherein subjectivity and objectivity live and move together as distinguishable factors participating in a single organic unity, a unity that does not exclude or negate differences, but embraces and preserves them. Experience is neither mere subjectivity, or a barren, isolated private I, nor is experience mere objectivity, or a mere fulguration of an ordered sequence or pattern of sensa or percepta. Rather, experience is, strictly speaking, a concrete, living substance. It is a substance within which subjectivity and objectivity are abstractly distinguishable coordinate factors, aspects, or determinations. Experience is not the mere togetherness or compressence of subject and object, for there is always a relatively determinable margin of experience which, despite being present, falls outside the radius of explicit attention. This subliminal surplus wades in the margins of any given experience, and always coats or qualifies each moment of experience with a unique aura or tone. The empire of experience is without circumference or margin. Its kingdom is infinite. Its infinitude is evidenced by its all-embracing inclusivity and self-transcendency. Indeed, there is nothing beyond its scope, for to reach beyond the pale of experience is to disclose that which hath already lied within its grasp. Unfortunately, the sovereignty of experience has not always been respected, let alone acknowledged. Time and again, experience has been threatened by an ancient force that has sought to dissolve it into a storm of elusive, material, and physical factors. This ancient creed is none other than materialism. Materialism stands or falls with its ability to explain experience. Rather than treating experience as the principle of explanation and discovery, the materialist, from defect of nature or of education, or probably both, is led by an untutored instinct to explain the fact of experience in terms of the abstract and unreal. Let us follow the materialist along this dreary path and see how he fares. In explaining experience, the materialist starts off by making two fundamental mistakes, two missteps that are characteristic of all materialistic explanations of experience. Firstly, The materialist fails to recognize two crucial facts that live and move within experience. 1. The fact that, within experience, the subject of consciousness and the object of consciousness are mutually implicative of each other. And 2. The non-objectified margin of experience works to shape the character of the object of consciousness. The fatal consequences of the materialist's neglect of these facts will lurk in the background and haunt the entirety of his explanation. Indeed, the materialist's uncanny affinity for abstraction and division leads him to treat the subjective and objective factors within experience as isolated, independent, and externally related units, forgetting that, within experience, we find the subject of consciousness and the object of consciousness to be two abstractly distinguishable, mutually implying determinations, aspects, or moments of that many felt in one that the materialist so desperately seeks to explain. Furthermore, before anyone even has time to blink, the materialist makes another blunder. He mistakenly identifies experience with either 1. The subject of consciousness, 2. The object of consciousness, or 3. Certain sensuous qualitative determinations of the object of consciousness, or that non-objectified margin of experience. Let us illustrate this miserable mistake with the help from a part-whole analogy. The materialist mistakenly identifies a whole with one of its isolated parts, said part most evidently being less than that whole of which it is a constituent part. Furthermore, said whole, i.e. experience, is not only richer in content than said isolated part, but also has a unique qualitative multidimensional structure that is non-isomorphic to that of any of its parts taken singly. How on earth can a part of a whole give rise to that whole of which it is but a part? If you are a materialist, and you wish to explain the fact of experience, I only ask that you do justice to experience by actually keeping in mind what experience is. Now, it doesn't matter whether the materialist mistakes experience for the subject of consciousness, the object of consciousness, or certain sensuous qualitative determinations of the object of consciousness, or that non-objectified margin of experience. For all three options are ultimately failures, but the materialist does not realize this. Indeed, he pushes even further by performing a biopsy on the object of consciousness. The materialist, forgetting that the object of consciousness has its determinate character, shaped and formed in part by the subject of consciousness, and that determinable non-objectified margin of experience, attempts to strip the object of consciousness of any and all subject-implying determinations, and any and all experience-implying determinations. The biopsic operation destroys the datum upon which the materialist was ravaging for answers, leaving him with a contentless, intangible, abstract, and hypothetical X. The materialist divines this X to be an occult thing in itself with causal efficacy. The materialist cherishes this mere shadow of reality as the answer to all of his difficulties. However, he soon realizes that his precious X has only a hypothetical existence, an existence only in the understanding, rather than an existence in reality. To make up for this, the materialist makes use of a bastardized form of the ontological proof, and establishes the unconditioned existence and reality of X, by virtue of the fact that X would be much greater for his explanation if X actually existed in reality, rather than as a mere concept in the understanding. Having established to his liking the unconditioned existence of X, the materialist now tries to spin the concrete and actual out of the desolate and the barren. However, as was seen above, Both the concept and unconditioned existence of X were arrived at with the help of several blunders and illegitimate inferences. Further, X as a concept had its conceptual content and determinate meaning exhausted by facts internal to experience. Now, this just means that X is conceptually sense-dependent upon facts internal to experience. In other words, one cannot grasp or understand X without grasping or having a prior understanding of certain facts internal to experience, or experience itself. On the other hand, it is clear that one can grasp or understand experience and facts internal to experience without ever grasping or understanding the materialist's X. Now, when the materialist attempts to explain the existence of experience in terms of X, or the emergence of experience from X, he fails to see that the driving force of his explanation not only presupposes, but also depends upon for its meaning and sense, the presence of experience within it. Furthermore, since facts internal to experience exhaust X's conceptual content and meaning, it follows that experience cannot be eliminated from any posited X without said posited entity becoming meaningless and senseless. As such, the materialist's explanation is self-condemned from the start. Indeed, vicious circularity haunts the materialist at every turn. The following illustration should help visualize the materialist's dilemma. Let E represent experience, and let EX represent X. The materialist, as we have seen, must explain E in terms of X. However, this just means that he must explain E in terms of E-X. But this cannot be done unless he first explains E-X in terms of E-X-X. But this cannot be done unless he first explains E-X-X in terms of E-X-X. But this cannot be done unless he first explains E-X-X in terms of E-X-X, and so on ad infinitum. And this circle is clearly vicious. The materialist is forced by his own hand to presuppose at the very beginning of his explanation the very presence of the phenomenon which he professes to have reached as the final result. Therefore, it is impossible, in principle, for materialism to genuinely explain experience.